While here in Singapore, I want to take advantage of my experience as an exchange student. In this project, I use my perspective to think differently about the objects I encounter that may seem mundane to Singapore's long-term residents. There are objects here that I've never seen, objects I've seen but not in this particular way, and there's so much new going on in my day-to-day, I can look at objects in a new light. My process is exploring Singapore through physical and digital formats to collect objects that stick out to me. I went to places to collect objects and learn more about the surrounding area. Then I entered a loop of discovery, collecting objects to being interested in the area, material, form, and history of the objects, to doing more research, rinse and repeat. Throughout my exploration, I realized there's an analogy between being on exchange and feeling like a kid. When I explore the city on my own, or when I don't know a common thing, or how I need to ask so much help from others, I feel like a kid on the inside. Originally, some of these experiences that stood out to me and my inner child were fruit stands at hawker centers, beautiful gardens, and busy shops and signs. Even though I'm in awe and making the most of my time here, I can tend to feel overstimulated and out of place. I wanted to use these 4 adjectives to guide the aesthetic style of my final design. My ideation for my final design manifested itself in lots of different ways. I sketched, drew over photos, assembled pictures, arranged objects I had in funny ways. I worked to spark interesting interactions and connections in objects. As maximalism, retrofuturism, and secondhand culture are on the rise, it is becoming more popular to keep what you have instead of donating, selling, or throwing objects away. So what do we do with these objects that have served us, and is there any level of attachment to them simply because they're familiar to us? I noticed a connection between these trends, ideas, and themes to the idea of kitsch objects, and looked at the designers of the Memphis movement to inspire the aesthetic choices in the final design. But kitsch is actually capable of developing real, enduring relationships between people and the objects they use, and which are around them, which explains why it's such a very real and unique aesthetic phenomenon. How can I use kitsch to elevate and attach everyday objects to a new purpose? Introducing the blanket shelf. It's a shelf that elevates the mundane objects in our home. For this design, I focused on 4 types of common objects: a tea set, microwave bowls, electronic cords, and miscellaneous objects that can fit in a tube. The shape of the shelf promotes a certain way to stack and arrange the objects on display, and the style of the table shelf arcs back to Memphis influence. The blanket shelf combines pseudo-realism with bright colors, patterns, and symbology to create a surreal and out-of-place piece to draw attention to. It can be placed on top of a table or the floor and act as a quirky piece to put in your living space. It makes you view these objects in a different light and adds vibrancy to the space as a whole.